Nothing can stop me, no, nothing can. I can, and I will. You keep on watching, don't take your eyes off me. Light that you can't deny. Confident and gracious while stacking up paper on top of her game. 25 hours a day. She's just like sunshine, spreading her power until the last hour. Yeah, spreading her power.
Hi viewers, this is Angel Garrett-Chagoya with Beauty and Beast in Business, and I am here with the beautiful founder of the Ambition Studio, Kiera Fenderson. And I had to look down. I am going to say this again because we just had this conversation. I just want to make sure that everything that we do is authentic to us. So I am so excited to have you here and for you to spend an hour with me talking about your business, who you are, and your mission for women in this world.
I am so glad to be here. Thank you so much for having me, Angel. There's a lot to talk about, a lot to cover. We've already had a little pre-conversation, so I know that the viewers are going to get so much out of this conversation. And like you said, let's be as authentic as possible because I believe my story can help so many others as well.
So let's talk about you and your background in business, and then we can move into the Ambition Studio and the skills and tools that it offers.
Yes, for sure. So before becoming an entrepreneur, I was a marketing professional. So I have a bunch of accomplishments with Fortune 500 companies, nonprofits, tech startups, you name it. I've been playing in that space, love all things marketing, and found myself in this toxic relationship to my ambition when I was in corporate. Yeah. So what that meant was I had no idea that climbing the corporate ladder and chasing after these accomplishments were not really going to keep me safe. I thought that was the game, that was the hustle that you played, until one day I got let go from my job. And I got let go from my job 3 months in after already feeling like it was off. Like I remember in the interview, I was like, oh, this is interesting, but let me go to the second interview. And then on my first day, I kind of looked around and I was like, I don't know if this is the right place for me. It was actually a tech startup, and they said they wanted to bring in some higher level professionals. They were in their next seed round. So they really wanted to up level their professionals and their employees to kind of get the ship running in a more optimized way. Well, that also means that I was the bad guy at times, right? I was the one who was like, this doesn't work. Or maybe we don't open the beer at 4 o'clock. Maybe we finish until 5. And it just didn't fit. But it was the highest salary I had ever made. It had so much flexibility. I felt like working at a tech startup company gave me that entrepreneurial feeling I was too scared to take on my own. So I always had a side hustle, and I was negotiating with God. This is what I always said. I negotiated with God, and I said, God, I'm too scared to step out on my own and do my own marketing consultancy. I love doing these little side gigs, but want that stable paycheck. And he had other plans. And so 3 months into the job, I remember walking into, it was really interesting. There was a disagreement with a campaign, and I was the director of marketing, and the vice president had sent us some emails about how she wasn't really happy with a campaign that had just launched. And we're not talking about Coca-Cola national campaign. We're talking about a tech startup. So it didn't really go that far, but it created turmoil within the department. And all of my employees were coming to me saying, you got to solve this. You know, we tried hard on this, blah, 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 blah. And I went and to have a conversation with her, and she kind of avoided it for a couple of days. And then I just kind of said, hey, can we go out to lunch? And she said, maybe. And then later on that day, that morning, she pulls me out of a meeting and says, can you come with me for a moment? And as a tech startup, the office space was like this big warehouse kind of thing. It was open concept. So the only private place they had was this walk-in closet. So I'm walking in, and I walk into this walk-in closet, and there are 2 chairs in a face-off, like sitting facing each other. And the CEO, who was about, I don't know, 32, remember, tech startup, he's leaning against the wall with his arms crossed. And I walk in like, what is going on? And he says, please have a seat. And I was like, I'll stand. And he goes, no, please sit. And I sit across from my vice president. So I completely thought we were getting ready to have like a mediation or something, which was completely unnecessary because we just needed to go to lunch and hash out what the dispute, right?
And then it sounded like a verbal MMA fight, right?
Right. And I'm like, what is happening? Like, we didn't do this in corporate. In corporate, we go to lunch, we figure it out, we come back and everything's fine. And he says, Kiera, today is your last day. And it hit me like a ton of bricks because, like I said, I was climbing the corporate ladder. I knew that working hard and having this ambition would get me to where I wanted to be. I had negotiated this great job with God that got me close to entrepreneurship. And here I am being fired 3 months into this job. Like, how embarrassing. And I said, why? And he said, you're not a good cultural fit. Now, being one of the only women of color in that office of 70 to 80 employees, it hit in two ways. There was the cultural fit of the actual company culture, but then I also understood that I've had many instances in corporate where being a woman of color can be, has its own natural stereotypes.
Yeah.
For example, I started wearing my natural hair in this state after leaving corporate. So it was pretty unfortunate, but I remember coming back home Wednesday morning, pulling into my driveway, completely not ready to lift the garage door because that meant that I was home in the middle of a week without a job, terrified. And I sat there in that driveway and cried. And I remember hearing God say, so clear, never heard him this clear before. He said, you will not go back. And that is when I decided, I don't know what the heck I'm going to do, but I know I'm not going back to the 9-to-5 rat race. And so, and that's my story. I mean, that's how I started the Ambition Studio, and we can get into that a little bit later. But that was the moment where I had to understand that my ambition or the relationship I had with my ambition wasn't healthy. And I needed to figure out another way to have a healthy relationship with my ambition.
Yeah, we talk about success and, the picture when you're first starting, and even, I mean, now, when we talk about success, so many times we think about, that C-suite position, right? We're not successful unless we get there. We're not successful unless we reach, $200,000. We're not successful unless we have A, B, or C. And it always revolves around these stereotypes of what success is supposed to be, which is really not built on women or built on women of color or intersectional women like ourselves, right? It was built to fit a specific person or type of person. And this is something that's so important. I want us to really understand it. And I'm glad that you brought that up, is what does success mean to me or to you? Success has to be something that we internalize and we sit down with and we think, what do we need? What do we want? How do we weigh that out? And when I first started Beauty and Beast in Business, which actually was created, the Pro Firm, which was Professional Female in Risk Management. And it was a way for me to help other women in risk management navigate their careers. That quickly became a realization that they knew their stuff. Yeah. They knew risk management. They knew insurance. They knew that's not what was either impeding their success or their transition or pivoting. What was impeding or a barrier was, what does success mean to me and how do I achieve that? But most importantly was navigating risk in career and life, right? Yes. And that's really what my platform started. It was like, how do we know what risk means? How do we understand it in everything that we do? How do we recognize what the options are, and then play out possible outcomes for each option, and then make a decision,
Yes.
right?
Mm-hmm.
So for you, you are now at home and you're contemplating this
Yep.
huge life change that just happened to you, which,
Yep.
I mean, I get it. I was actually furloughed when COVID hit for a few months,
Yeah.
and it hits and you're like, oh my God, am I whatever? Like, you're just trying to figure that out. So when that hit you, what was your next thought? You knew you weren't going back to corporate America, right?
Yeah.
So how did you weigh out the risk of actually starting your own company?
Yes. Oh, that's such a great question. And to be clear, I was told I wasn't going back. I didn't didn't completely know it quite yet, right? And so, interestingly enough, the year prior, my husband had lost his job, and he had been wanting to make a pivot in his industry as well, like to a completely different role. But again, he was afraid to take the risk. So I'm noticing this pattern around like we get these little hunches. I call them pebbles. The universe is going to throw you little pebbles. And if you don't listen, you're going to get hit with a brick. So he had his brick moment, and then I had my brick moment. And in that moment, I was like, can we really afford for me to go and do this? We just rebuilt our household again from him losing his income last year. And things were going well, but not as well as we wanted them to. And so I had to take a look at a couple of things. Number one, I had to look inward to decide if I had what it took. And what I realized was whatever I am put to a challenge, I always achieve it no matter what. And I could at least give it a shot for a temporary amount of time. So I set some parameters around, all right, give me till the end of the year. It happened 2 weeks before Thanksgiving. I said, let me see what January holds. And my birthday is actually December 30th. So I said, okay, let's use that as a
Oh,
marker.
December 26th.
Oh my gosh. No, of course it is. My daughter's is December 29th and my mother's is December 27th.
Okay. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
Capricorns. I love it. So I gave myself that time. And then the other thing that I did, which in hindsight, I think was a little bit of a mistake. I started sharing it with my friends and family. Hey, this happened, and I needed support. And I remember one conversation with one of my friends from college. And I told him, and it was probably 2 weeks after I'd made the decision that I wasn't going back. And I said, I'm starting a marketing consultancy and blah, 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 blah. And he goes, oh, do you think that's a good idea? Do you really want to give up your steady paycheck? And luckily, I had told him 2 weeks after making the decision because I said, oh, well, I'm already kind of doing it. So too bad. And this is what I tell all of my clients is there are three people you need in your network to be able to really take these risks and stay in entrepreneurship. Number one, you need the connectors, right? You need those people who are going to connect you to opportunities. And I'll tell you how that plays a role in a second. Number two, you need the truth tellers, the ones who are going to shoot it straight. And, usually that's my husband because he's on the other side, like, here's how much money you need to make. Let's do it. And then you need change agents, the ones people who you can go to that are not afraid of risk and not afraid of change. And I had made a misstep. That friend was risk averse. And so, of course, he's going to be protecting me because it's something he wouldn't do. And so, luckily, I was able to identify, hey, you're not for me. And by the time December 30th hit, we actually had a trip booked to Mexico for my big birthday. And I'm sitting on this beautiful resort on unemployment, feeling like an imposter, having made no progress in the past 2 months in this business and feeling like, well, I guess I'm going back to the 9 to 5. Like, I don't know what I'm doing. And at that time, you turned your data off and your phone off when you go out the country, so you don't get the increased fees, right? So I come back to the United States on January 2nd, turn my phone on, and get floods of voicemails. Well, most of them were "Happy birthday, Kiera," but there was one message from somebody who I had did a leadership development training with in my corporate career. And she is a huge connector. And we just hit it off. And she said, Kiera, I don't know what you're doing right now, but I have somebody you absolutely need to meet. She needs your help. Send me your resume. And I thought, well, I said I was going back, but maybe I need to go back. I don't really have a resume. Let me just entertain this conversation. Fast forward, long story short, I get into the office. It's with the COO of a honor society in Washington, D.C., and she hires me on the spot. She said, "Oh, you're the perfect person to mentor my marketing department," because again, I had the marketing expertise. When can you start? And I looked at her and I said, Monday? Because in my head, I'm thinking, you work on Mondays, right? And she goes, okay, great. Send me your EIN number and your contract, and we'll send it over to HR and she'll get you all set up. And I get in the elevator and I'm so excited. And then I freak out and say, I don't have a business. Those 2 months, I don't know what I was doing for 2 months. I had no LLC, no EIN, no contract, nothing. In a matter of a week, I had to establish myself as a business, and I made it work. And so that goes back to my original point of, do you have what it takes? When you have a challenge, will you rise to the occasion? Because if you know that you can rise to the occasion, you can take risk and bet on yourself.
Yes, let's talk because it's frightening enough to take risks on other people. It's more frightening when we take risks on ourselves.
Yeah.
Because it's funny, because I originally was like, I'm not a salesperson. I can't sell anything. But I could sell the hell out of things that I felt passionate about. Like,
Yeah.
I'm like, I do a lot of philanthropy. So I'm like, hey, we need backpacks and school supplies. And next thing I know, I have like 200 of them. Like, I need, whatever it is, because it's that passion in me. And when I'm passionate about something, I go wholeheartedly, even if and most of the time I don't get paid for it. It's just because, but when it came to me, I was like, oh, I can't sell that. I don't have these expertise. I don't have that criteria. I don't have, they're going to look at me. People are going to look at me and go, she's a joke. Like, who is this? She's a joke. And when I started the pro firm, the only reason why I got a business license was because I was thinking, well, how do I track whatever comes in?
Yeah.
And do like refunds. And then I just wanted kind of like a brand so that women in risk management would recognize, oh, that this is what it was for. It was for them.
Right.
And so that's the only reason why I got the business license. And I was like, oh, this way, it's not just under my name. I have like this
separate
kind of name, right? Yeah. And I did that, but I didn't think anything of it. And then, a year goes in and we're still building these events. And, I have 40 to 100 people coming, to these events, but it wasn't me talking. I wasn't selling myself. I was selling education from experts that I was bringing in, because I thought, what do I know? I know that I'm interested in self-growth myself. I'm interested in learning how to handle my finances. I'm interested in knowing that I need a 401k, or, how do I go in and sell my idea to whoever is on the board, or whoever needs to approve it in my corporate job, whatever. Those were things that I wanted to know. So that's what I was selling to these ladies. And actually it was free. So I really was selling a free event, right?
Yeah.
Because I had sponsors coming in. So where my sales came in was, how do I get sponsors to care enough about their clients and their customer base that they're going to invest in these events, so that we can continue to empower others. And now here I am, COVID hit. I had to close my nonprofit. I had to cancel all my 2020 events. And then I was really feeling like an imposter, right? Because I'm like, well, you didn't make this work. And this show came in. And someone said, Angel, we think that this would be fun. You should really give it a thought. And I was like, I don't want to go on camera. Who wants to see me? Who wants to see? And then I sat with it overnight and I thought, Angel, the education or the stories that we were telling, not me, but that these speakers like you, an ambitious studio, can come in and say, this is this was my story, and maybe you can take a nugget of gold from it and then use it in your own.
Yes.
So you do consulting, and you also, we look at consulting and we look at coaching.
Mhm.
And right now, that's a hot button thing, right?
Yes.
It's not something that people really did 5 years ago. Now it's something that we continue to promote. Can you tell me a little bit about the differences between consulting and coaching?
Yes, absolutely. So to continue my story a bit, after I did the marketing consulting work with that company, I actually stumbled upon coaching and did some research and found that I had a knack for helping people discover and transform some of those imposter syndrome things we are talking about, that hustle and grind, attaching your identity to your accomplishments. And again, I guess I'm just like a lover of risk because I have jumped out of a perfectly good airplane. I jumped into this coach's training program within 24 hours. It was a $16,000 program, and I had just stopped being on unemployment. And so when I was going through this coach's training program, I realized that there's this very, very clear difference between coaching and consulting. And so the way I like to explain it is through an analogy. So imagine I'm walking down the street and you're in a ditch, right? So you're in a ditch and Angel's down there and I'm walking down. And there's three professions. There's consulting, coaching, and therapy that get confused. So I'm going to break down all three. If I was a therapist, I would walk by the ditch and I might have a ladder on my back, and I would put the ladder down into the ditch and I would crawl down into the ditch with you and sit with you and say, Angel, how'd you get here? Do you want me to, let's talk about it. Let's process it. You're processing the trauma. You're processing where you are in the moment.
Mhm.
Therapists definitely help you move to the next level because there's a lot of overlap with all of them, but really they're there to help you process the emotions and the traumas so that you can get moving forward. A consultant may walk by, if I was a consultant, and I would say, hey, Angel, I have 10 ways to help you get out of this ditch. I'm giving you the answers. I'm giving you a rope. I'm giving you a ladder. I'm telling you how to make a dirt ladder. I don't know. I'm giving you ways to get out of the ditch. And so I may not know that your ankle is broken because you fell into this ditch, and I'm busy giving you a ladder as a solution. Now, consultants, again, they do their due diligence and they do assess the situation, but it is a lot of advice given and solutions driven. Coaching, if I was to walk by, I would say, Angel, do you know that you're in a ditch? And you could be like, duh, of course I'm in a ditch. Or you could say, no, I'm planting potatoes, right? I'm fixing some underground pipe. Who knows? No, I'm not in a ditch. I'm intentionally down here. When you say, yes, I know I'm in a ditch. Okay, well, would you like to get out? Yes, obviously. Okay, what are some ways that you could get out? Well, can you please call the fire department so they can airlift me out because my ankle's broken? The point is, the client always has the answers, and it's my job to help you cultivate and pull those answers out. Because if you get used to relying on other people telling you how to do things, validating your ideas, or even just staying in the place of emotional reaction, you're not going to build that strength and fortitude for yourself to be able to then move forward without having imposter syndrome getting in the way or transforming your relationship to your ambition. So typically, coaches are not needed, right? Athletes have coaches, and executives who want to get to the next level have coaches. And nowadays, especially with everything going on with COVID, we've had that time to reflect and look back and say, oh, is this where I want to be? And so coaching has really emerged as a way to discover what's next for you without somebody, again, prescribing, here's how you succeed. This is what success looks like.
So I have never heard it outlined like that before. And I want to give you a kudos for that, because me, myself, I have looked into these things, or you talk to people who are in, consulting or in coaching, and business consulting is one thing. Like if you tell somebody, oh, I'm a business consultant, they're like, oh, got you. I understand what you do.
Yeah.
But when you say, I am a life or career consultant or a life or career coach,
Mhm.
I always thought they were two of the same. I didn't
Exactly.
recognize. And I think that that's an important distinction that you're making, because that means that myself as a client or a potential customer,
Mhm.
if I am looking for somebody to help me navigate my career or my business or whatever it is that I'm trying to do, if I invest or connect or collaborate with a coach versus, a consultant, maybe that's not the right person.
Yeah.
And I've seen people go, I paid really good money to work with this coach and I didn't get anything out of it. And
Yep.
so coaches don't do it, or
Yes.
vice versa. I had this consultant,
Yep.
this life and career consultant. And I think that it comes down to recognizing that as a consultant or a coach, you cannot fix all of our issues, right? We have to be able to kind of buckle down and figure it out. But it also may come down to that we just collaborated with the wrong individual. That
Yeah.
individual may be, I mean, 5-star in what they do.
Yeah.
Maybe they just weren't the right individual for us.
Oh, I love this, Angel. I have so many riffs on this because I really want your audience to understand the coaching industry so they can make an informed decision. So, coaching is only 30 years young and it's unregulated, right? Counselors and therapists are regulated in the United States. And so, because we're still building this profession, there's an organization called the International Coach Federation. And they are the international board that certifies coaches and accredits the coaches' training programs. And
Wow.
so I'm a professional certified coach through the International Coach Federation, which means that I've gone through rigorous assessments and oral assessments and a lot of training to hold that credential. I'm actually in a training now to renew that credential. They have a coach finder database for anyone who's looking for a coach. So you can look for someone who has the ACC credential, the PCC credential like me, or the MCC credential. So there's different levels to it. And I say this in the most loving way, but I have to be an advocate for my profession. Coaching is a buzzword right now. And so people who are strategists and consultants are now using the term coach, and it's not authentically a coach. A coach partners with you to help you transform and discover what is next for you, to create an actionable plan, and to help you step outside and expand your comfort zone so that you are a new person. And so, another way to look at that is, let's say we're walking through the forest and you tell me that you want to get to a certain point in the forest and we have our map. I'm walking side by side with you. I have a flashlight, you have a flashlight. And as we're walking, I will point my flashlight and go, oh, watch out for that stick. Watch out for that ditch. Watch out for that rock. Because I'm your mirror. I'm your partner to say, oh, I hear you saying things that are limiting your potential because you still think you're an imposter. Is that how you want to operate? I'm challenging you around that. Whereas a consultant may navigate around that blind spot for you, right? They may hear, oh, well, Angel's not really comfortable with jumping out of an airplane. So let me go figure out how to get her in a car. Well, I'm going to challenge you to say, let's talk about that fear. Let's talk about your risk aversion. Let's expand that. And so I really think it's important that people know how to find a credentialed coach if you're going to make that investment. Make sure that you're interviewing a number of coaches. You're having a coach conversation with maybe 3 before you make your selection. And then to your point, you have to do the work. You have to be open to the transformation. So the Ambition Studio focuses on, and it's called the Ambition Studio for a reason, redesigning your relationship to your ambition and what you see is possible if you're a high achiever. And you have to be really, really, really willing to be vulnerable and authentic and do the work.
Yes, I see. I talk to my kids, or when I mentor, I talk to young people.
Yeah.
But even when I mentor women or talk to women, I remind everybody that without the work, it's simply a wish.
Yes.
It's
Yes.
like looking for a 4-leaf clover. Like,
Yep.
you are going to spend so much time and so much, energy into trying to find that quick fix. And we're not putting in the work that we need to actually create that strong foundation for the next level. And it's so important because if I tell my kids this all the time, what do you want to do? Like, it doesn't matter whether, I think it's great or you or anybody else thinks it's great. What do you want to do? And how much time do you want to do that in? Because let's just say I throw something out there and say, you know what? I would love to be making $250,000 by the time I'm 50.
Yeah.
Okay, that's great. Now I spend 5 years looking for that 4-leaf clover, right? I'm like, please let me be a quarter of a millionaire.
Yeah.
Let me win the lotto. So
Yeah.
that's where all my focus is for 5 years. Now, all of a sudden I'm 50 and I'm like, oh,
What happened?
what happened? That's not in my bank account. Like, what happened there, right? So yes, we have to have goals.
Yeah.
We have to set them, because when we don't set them, then we easily lose track of where we're at, what we want to do.
Yeah.
But without having that substantial action and taking those risks, and really, risk comes down to people who are risk averse. It really comes down to sometimes an innate fear that may not be an actual fear, right?
Yes. Oh, so spot on.
So,
I can add to this because I love everything you're saying.
yeah, please do, because that's what I really want. I want my
Yeah.
audience to know, like, from a coach, from a certified coach, what do you see out there? And what do you recommend for women who are really risk averse?
Yeah. First off, I love your piece about setting the goal. I love your piece about saying, what do you want and by when do you want it? That is the foundation of what we do in coaching. What by when? And then you can create the action plan. But sometimes we jump into action a little bit too early. We haven't gathered enough insights to then be able to inform the action. So, insights would be taking a personal inventory or working with a coach or working with a colleague or someone, a mentor, someone who can reflect back to you and say, okay, so I want to be a $250,000 millionaire, whatever we want to call it, by 50, 5 years. Cool. What are some of the beliefs I have that tell me that's not possible? Or what do I think about people who make that much money? Or how would my life change if I made that much money? On the positive and the negative. Money is such a hot button topic. So if we were just to talk about that, the fear, like you said, there's an innate fear. The fear comes from these limiting beliefs that we were taught or that we saw when we were in childhood, right? And this kind of goes back into a little bit of the therapy piece. But if you always thought or always heard that people who made $1 million were nasty and slimy and they're inauthentic, then yes, you may say you want it, but in the back of your mind, you're going to sabotage yourself from getting there because you don't want to be perceived as XYZ type of person. And so it's risky. You're risking your reputation. You're risking your identity. You're risking people not liking you if you made $1 million. That is the subconscious insight or belief that's playing in your head. So you want to make sure that you're looking at what has me sabotaging. What are some of the things that I need to shift within my mindset first, and then move into that action piece and be upfront with whomever is holding you accountable. All of this is great, but if you have no one to hold you accountable, then you're probably not going to get that far. And it doesn't have to be strict accountability like you're in class or something like that, but being able to say, okay, Angel, I want to make $500,000 in 5 years. And every month I want to check in with you to just let you know where I am around it. And just so you know, I have this fear that rich people are slimy and nasty. And I'm also trying to work on that too. Cool. Now I've told you as my accountability person, you need to look out for me talking crap about people who have money. Like we could be hanging out like, look at her with that Mercedes Benz over there. And I need you to check me and say, wait, you're going to be driving a Mercedes Benz in 5 years or whatever the case may be, right? So we need to be working on that mindset piece, but then also having those conversations to say, hey, how much money did you make this month or this year or whatever? So there's a lot that goes into the goal piece But the risk piece really comes down to your mindset. Because once you figure out what's holding you back and the limiting beliefs you have, then you decide, well, am I going to be that person or am I going to be this person? And that's the ultimate question that you have to go into any of these goals around is, in order for me to be a millionaire, who do I need to be internally? What things and what fears do I need to let go of internally that's going to actually get me there?
It's funny that you do bring that up about the stigma of people with money, because as I talk to women who are entrepreneurs, and even women who are looking to have an upward trajectory of their career, when they talk about money, we say, yes, we want to make that money. But we also say we can't sell ourselves. We can't ask for that money. What are other people going to think about us if we put a specific price tag? I have had myself to deal with the guilt of keeping money, because people are like, aren't you, don't you have a nonprofit? Like, don't you give your money away? And I do. I mean, before I even started the nonprofit, for 15 years, I took out of my my weekly paycheck from my corporate job, because that was important to me because of where I came from.
Right.
And I wanted to make sure I gave back. But then what happened was the mindset of, oh, I'm not supposed to keep any money.
Yep.
I'm not supposed to, because if I do keep money, then people think I'm selfish. People think that, whatever it is that they think. So it was a mindset thing that I've had to work through. And I think that that's really important. The other thing is, like you said, some women, they don't have those accountability partners, or they don't have another friend told me, a personal board of directors, right? So we get to that middle management and we go, okay, we're here. And then we're looking for a mentor, or we're looking for a sponsor. And those people who may be on that next level, they're like, you know what, I'm busy, or I'm just not interested in being a mentor or sponsor. I've heard some people go, if every woman who I know connected and asked me to be a sponsor or a mentor, right? So then it leaves us in a position where we go, okay, we're here. We are motivated. We are inspired. We are, we want to get to that next level, but we don't have that help. That can be where you and other professional coaches can come into play, right? So
True.
Knowing that we're valuable enough to invest in ourselves, and then finding the right fit for somebody like you who can say, Angel, okay, what's the next step? Let's figure this out and let's help you get there. Why? Because now I have already taken those steps and I can act, although I am not your, let's say, quote unquote, mentor or sponsor. I can be that woman who has walked those steps, that pathway, and I can coach you through it.
I love that you brought this up. I literally had a client this year. We're just wrapping up now. Same exact situation. She was a sales rock star in her corporate career. When I say was, because I'll kind of giving away the end, but she was in that same situation, right? She was always on the leaderboard. She was the woman in her company. And, sales is a male dominated industry a lot of times. And she said, I'm getting passed over for promotions. I'm not really good at advocating for myself. I don't know what to do. I need a mentor. And she was doing the same thing, kind of like cold connecting with people, trying to get mentorship. And we had a conversation and I said, what are you really after? And it turned out that she was after that illusion of success that we talked about in the beginning. She was after hitting a certain point in her career or the corporate ladder that would tell her she made it, to tell her that she arrived. And I said, well, let's just hypothetically play a game. What if the ladder didn't matter? Then what would you be pursuing? And she started to talk about the freedom to be with her daughter and the freedom to, before COVID, have vacations and the freedom to not worry about money. And as we went down this path, she realized she wasn't supposed to be at that company. She really wasn't even supposed to be in that industry. She kind of stumbled into it, and we get caught up in this predetermined path of success, right? You stumble into your career. Okay, well, I'm pretty good at this. I guess I'll just keep going up the ranks. And as we did some more discovery, she said, I don't actually need a mentor or a sponsor. I need to get clear on where I want to go and what impact I want to have in this world sooner than later. And fast forward, what is it, 6 months? She's submitting her resignation this month. No, in October, she's submitting her resignation, and she is going to be starting her own business. And that's a part of the risk, right? It's like she never in a million. We literally had a project plan that was find her a mentor, and through discovery, she realized that she had the mentor as some type of solution to a problem she had made up. And that's what we usually do. We make up these problems, and then we try to look for our savior. And through the work we did together, she was able to see that it wasn't about this thing over here. It was about her having the strength and the courage to actually create this secret little thing that was in the back of her head. To the other point too, I highly, highly recommend that a part of owning your professional career or even your entrepreneurial career is networking and building authentic relationships. Instead of it being a search of, let me find my sponsor or my mentor, because that's the pre-described way that you advance in corporate, let me just have regular conversations and connections with people and force myself to go to a networking event, once a month, or get on the networking Zoom once a month. And it's just like you and I, right? Like, force yourself to learn more about people, and then it will naturally come. But you have to trust the universe to deliver to you what you want when you need it, not when you think you need it, if that makes sense. But you have to be able to create the ecosystem for it to come into.
Yeah. And, one thing that I talk to people about is, well, with us as Nabo sisters,
Yes.
let's first talk about that, because I promote that a lot. If I can post it, I'm like, hey, check out Nabo. And there are women who are business owners in a very niche industry. So whether, let's just say, it's insurance, or it's workers' compensation insurance, or it's a copy service for whatever. The problem is that I see, I'm like, okay, you're a female business owner, you are an entrepreneur, where are you connecting? Right. And they feel like they have to stay within their own industry. And I'm like, no, let's not do that. Like, let's break that. Now, I get that, you only have so many dollars that you can play with, or that you can work with, or that you can invest in, right? But I keep trying to say that when we join organizations like NABO, or any organization that's outside of our regular industry, we get a chance to meet women who have different experiences, who can fill our cup.
Yes.
Right. So I like to call it, like, some fairy dust that sprinkles in my garden, because I am this little flower, and I am trying to reach the sun. And when I go into places like NABO, or even other, Latina Business Association, or whatever organizations out there that I may say, maybe quarterly or once a year, I'm going to attend one of these network events, because I meet these women who have different experiences, but the same mission of kindness and love and empowerment. And now I'm like, oh, they're sprinkling fairy dust on the flower that I can continue to grow, and hopefully, kind of spread with other women. So, are you part of other organizations, or how do you utilize NABO to kind of help you in your career?
Oh, I'm so glad we get to talk about Nabo because it's it's how I found my business bestie, which I never even knew about, but I love her to death. So, one thing that I think I discovered about the power of having a women business organization outside of an industry specific is that industry specific teaches you how to win in the industry, right? So you're learning how to navigate that industry and have the jargon and the know-how and all of that kind of stuff, and that's great. But no one's really talking about what it takes to be a woman in business. So I just had our daughter, was she 9 months yesterday? And with COVID, we've been able to have her at home, but now my husband needs to start going back into the office a couple of days a week. And it freaked me out. I was like, do we get a nanny? How do I do this childcare thing? It was a freak out moment because business is booming and I need to be able to be focused on my clients. And I called up my Nabo sister and I was like, what do I do? And she was there to help me navigate what I need to do and how to buy myself time and depend on my family and things like that. I've had times where even getting to having our daughter, I was going through IVF for 2.5 years, and I had to lean on my Nabo sisters and ask them, how do I manage this? And can you still put my name out there even though I'm not feeling well to come to this networking event? I mean, that support you need around being a human and a woman is what you get from Nabo outside of how to run a business. And I think what I was so used to, and a lot of my clients too, is that because we're such go-getters, most entrepreneurs are like high achievers, go-getters, figure out the solution to my problem. We don't really look at who we need to be in the support we need as the person. We just look at what the solution is in the business. And with Nabo, I have found that I get that support in so many ways. The other thing I love about Nabo is the national exposure, right? I'm in Washington, D.C. right now. You're all the way in California right now, right? And we connected on a conference platform where I was like, hey, you look like a lot of fun. Want to chat? And I will tell you, doing that, I had to really put myself out there. I was like, Kiera, when you go into this conference, you're going to connect at least with 10 people and make it a goal and put myself out there. And if they say no, they say no. But it's really beautiful to be able to have the connections in different parts of the country and experience levels. And then just knowing we have like this sisterhood, like you said, like the values and the authenticity and the community. And that like if I'm reaching out to a Nabo sister, she's going to get me immediately because there's some type of, I don't know, camaraderie that just comes with it. So I highly recommend Nabo.
Yeah, it was funny because before I joined Nabo, I had, the pro firm, which I was already kind of marketing Beauty and Beast in Business because that was kind of my logo on the shirts. It was like, I want us to have that spiritual inner balance between our inner beauty and our inner strength. That's how that Beauty and Beast in Business came about. Part of that, and also recognizing that so many times we try to fit the role that people expect of us. And in the business world where I'm not saying all the way across, but many times we're put into two different categories, either the pretty face that may not really know that much, or that, she knows, but, we're going to put her in that category. And the other one is that harsh, like, bring down the hammer person. And that's usually because in order to have that upward trajectory in their career and that, climbing the ladder, that person has had to really buckle down and be able to say no and be able to learn how to navigate and how to hold her own. And so sometimes we get stuck in one of the two categories. And when I said, I want to promote Beauty and Beast in Business, it was really about whether we're stuck in those categories ourselves in the way that we act and react with people, or they're categories that we kind of were just dumped into and we never got out of. It's really about reflecting our inner self and saying, I know that I have this inner kindness. I have this inner beauty that I want to share with other people. And I also know that I have this inner strength because when I need it, and believe me, we're mothers or siblings or whatever, and barriers come. And sometimes we want to pull that blanket up over our head and go, I don't want to get out of bed today, right? But
Yes.
we have that inner strength, that inner warrior where we shake it off and we're like, okay, let's go. So when I promote Beauty and Beast in Business, it's about finding that balance. And we find that balance through education, through connections with other women like ourselves. And so when I came into NABO just I want to check this out, I felt that same mission and camaraderie that I wanted to build in my own company. And I was building it with women who are in insurance and claims and risk. But I already had the idea of, I want to expand this because NABO really focuses on that female entrepreneur,
Right.
which I love because now I have that. And with Beauty and Beast in Business, I wanted to focus on that middle management, those women that we talk about, that they either want to continue to grow or they've grown and they don't have the support system, that personal board of directors that they need. So how can I create an organization that amplifies their voice?
Yes.
Underrepresented industries like IT or insurance or law or safety or whatever it is, and also focus on that intersectional woman who might be fighting multiple things, not just the fact that she's a woman, but the fact that she's a woman of color, or that she has other abilities that people look at her and go, oh, she can't do that because of X, Y, and Z. And that's really what I want for Beauty and Beast in Business. I wanted to expand and to grow. And the only way that I could do that was by learning how to network, like you said, by reaching out to other women and saying, I just want friends. I want to meet somebody who says, oh, I get you. And that doesn't mean, a lot of times when I tell people when you're networking, that doesn't mean we're all for one another. Like, that doesn't mean that everything you think, I think, and that, it just means that we connect on a level that I respect you. I respect what you say and what you stand for, because what you stand for is kindness and education and growth.
Yeah.
And that doesn't mean that all my thought process and your thought process is going to be here, but we also need that, right?
Yes.
You mentioned that earlier when you said, we don't want to just say, oh, Angel's afraid of that, so we're going to, kind of, or, say, yes, I want to be your yes man, your yes woman, and say, oh yeah, that's great. Oh yeah, that's great. Oh, and then we can't figure out why it didn't work. We need somebody who thinks differently.
Yes, oh my gosh, I'll just add a little bit to this because I completely agree with you. I was talking to my business bestie again, and it was so funny. We do like these little power hours where we get on Zoom, and for an hour we kind of talk about what our business focus is or what we want to do or what challenges we had. And right at the end, she goes, "Oh, I just got an email from so and so," and it was a difficult client she had a while back, maybe about a year or so ago. Oh, she wants to work with me again. I said I wasn't going to do anything like that ever again. And I said, what could you learn from this? And I was so nervous to say it because I'm like, I just want to be like, girl, forget her. Because we're besties. Like, yeah, don't do that. But then I took a step back and I was like, what if this is an opportunity for you to stretch your comfort zone with the type of people you work with? There may be an opportunity there. You never know. You never know. And she goes, I'll think about it. And I kid you not, the very next day when she had a call with the potential client, she said, oh my gosh, thank you so much. Because if you wouldn't have challenged me around my perspective, my preconceived notion based off of how we interacted before, I would have never taken the call. And this client actually came very humble, very apologetic. It sounded like that client had worked on themselves too and realized the engagement before was different than what it is now. And that's exactly to your point, Angel. It's like, you don't want to surround yourself with people who are yes people. You want those truth tellers. You want those people who are going to push your buttons. And the other point I'll say is networking is not always transactional. I think that
Yeah.
sometimes we think like, okay, they're trying to get something out of it or blah blah blah. No, it's just, hey, what are you about? And we can make a friend, and you never know what it can lead to. But again, in order for you, and it's to time it all the way back to risk, I find that risks aren't as large when you have multiple opportunities, right? So if you have a small network of 5 people that you could possibly ask for something on, or whatever the case may be, you feel like you're taking a bigger risk. But if you have a huge network of 100+ people that you've built these different relationships with, it's okay if you get 10 no's, because you have more people to talk to. So you really have to expand your horizons, and see networking as getting to just know people, and playing with possibilities.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and so many times the other thing is on the flip side, I know people who are amazing salespeople,
Uh-huh.
and it's a numbers thing, right? But on the other token, I tell them you don't always have to be on, because we want to create those beautiful relationships. And sales, if what they're serving or what I'm serving is a fit, that might come later. And the
Right.
other thing is not always transactional in, I want you to buy this from me, or I'm going to buy that from you. But really, I continue to say collaboration, because maybe I have something that you need and you have something that I need. How can we make it fit for both of us?
Yep. That's so
And that is not going to come until you meet those people.
Yep, and build those relationships. Yeah, and
Mhm.
not be looking at what's in it for me. It's just, hey, let's give it a shot. Let's see what
Yeah.
it does.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I love it.
So with that being said, this hour has flown by.
I know.
Well, I always keep telling people this is girl talk with the business
Yeah.
owner. It's just so easy to do. But in closing, let's have one golden nugget for our viewers, based on maybe navigating risk or being able to learn to take risks.
Yes, absolutely. This is the foundation of the Ambition Studio. I say this is the little magic behind what you actually think you're purchasing. So you think that you're working with a coach to get to a goal, and what you're actually working towards is strengthening your intuition. Trust your intuition. Those little pebbles are there. Honor them so that they don't turn into bricks. And I like to make sure everything is very actionable as a coach. So here's the actionable way to trust your intuition. I want you to keep a log, either in your phone, your journal, on a post it note. I don't care where it is. And track at the end of the day, what pebbles did I receive today? There are no such thing as coincidences or irony. Those are actually pebbles. So, was it a coincidence that you were thinking about Susie and she called you right then? No, that was your intuition trying to tell you something. So, the more you start acknowledging how strong your intuition is, the stronger it gets. So that when you are faced with some big challenge or a big risk, you know that you can trust yourself. You know how to take a pause and say, hey, what am I being told right now? And you make that risk based off of your intuition and not analysis paralysis. That's what I would give them.
Amen. So learning to listen to ourselves, and we drown ourselves out so many times. So I completely agree with that. Um, and thank you so much for spending an hour with us and sharing your story and talking about the Ambition Studio, which I think is a brilliant name
Thank
for,
you.
for a coaching company, because it's just, I mean, really brilliant. And I hope that we get a chance to do this again and talk about these other topics that are so close to our hearts.
I would love to be back. I know we have hours and hours of conversation in us. So whatever we want to talk about, let's definitely do it. I'm just so grateful that I got to share my story and some of my insights. And I really implore all the viewers, take these nuggets and be in action around them. Do the work. It will pay off.
Thank you.
You're welcome.